It was great, but
And know where I got it from. It can name the place, the time, especially if like I'm out of town, like I know who I got it from, where I got it from, and just not try to,
Good.
I don't know.
I'm just checking in with you because I'm sorry, I'm videotaping because I document when I go places,
Mhm.
and I've been talking to a lot of white folks, and I thought I haven't talked to a lot of black folks since I've been here.
That's a
About,
shame.
are you from Detroit?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get. And the vibe, because I'm from Toronto.
Okay.
I
Which
mean,
part?
I'm Jamaican originally, but I grew up in Toronto.
Nice.
We migrated there, like downtown. Like I live downtown. My family's in Scarborough in the suburbs, but you guys, this is your hometown.
Yeah.
Yes, she still lives
Yeah,
here.
I still live here.
I'm back for a bit, but yeah, I'm from the city originally.
Okay, and are you here absorbing the music festival, or just hanging out and coming to check this out,
I mean,
or?
my family's here. So, I mean, I've thought about going. I still call it Tech Fest because I refuse to acquiesce to it being called movement. But
Ah,
I saw some. I was like, yeah, I kind of want to check out Tech Fest this year, and I didn't buy tickets.
you call it Tech Fest. So that was the original,
It's what I mean. That's what I grew up calling it, Tech
like as
Fest.
a techno kind of with Theo Parrish and Stacey Pullen and those kinds of.
Kevin Saunderson, like when nobody was coming into town to go to techno
Right.
shows, or actually some Germans were coming in, like
Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
where
it
they
was heavy.
Oh, yo, it would always be like German and Dutch people here, like during the Tech Fest, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're going to see the Tech World."
because they popped off. Even those guys you're talking about, really was big in the world even before they
I
were
mean,
even big
Detroit
locally.
rap got big in Europe first before it got big anywhere else. Like Jay Dilla, Fat Cat, Slum Village, they would always go to Europe, and like even when I go to Europe and I'll have like a Detroit hat, like they always be like, "Oh, do you know?" It's like, yeah. Like, so I did cool first.
The boys with the.
It's thankful. Did you see the
So you did.
Where were you? Yeah.
Well, I was inside trying, and my phone died. I had to do a bunch of things. But you still brought it though.
We brought it. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, no, I had to check that. Yeah, so I'm trying to get okay. So Detroit. If you're gonna say, I mean, I know you're in and out, but you're here now, or still here. How do you say what's happening in terms of how it's all evolving and all that?
I'm observational.
All right.
Um, I feel like it's an emerging city, but it always has had like a slow hum to it. It's been there. I've left and came back too, but it's small pockets that are starting to build up. But it's always been some consistency that's there. Like my family's always been here. They've always had something to do
Right.
here, and
Right.
always decided to stay here.
Right.
Pretty simple. I mean, like my family's from here, like all parts of the city. They went to school here. I'm the oddball who left and like decided. And now I'm like debating on going back myself. And figuring out, like, is it a long-term home for me? Like I'm at that stage in life where I'm like, all right, where do I want to sit?
Right. Right.
But also the conflicted feeling of like being a full-time artist right now. Do I still want to be a full-time artist? Do I want to like balance it with something else? Yeah, I agree. Like it's always been like there's something going on in the city. It's always been something to. I've never felt like I was without something to do. It's like it's not a city where it's not like New York where like you get off the train and something's presented to you, right?
Right.
It's definitely a word of mouth city. You have
Very.
to know about the things, and you know a person. You will easily pop into an underground club or bar
Yeah.
or something everywhere. I was just somewhere last night, and it was like, oh, go downstairs. And usually if somebody tells you to go upstairs or downstairs, it's a nice little speakeasy that
Speakeasy.
Right.
probably has like a different vibe than the first place that you went into.
Yeah, it's
Right.
very much a speakeasy city. It's
Yeah.
always been that way, where you know somebody or you find out about, and then like that thing never happens again, and you like got this weird story. Like even like I mean you're gonna miss it. Did you end up going to Cafe de Mongo yesterday?
Oh yeah.
Cafe de Mongo is
What is that?
So it's this.
Historical speakeasy.
It's a speakeasy. It's
Like you said, a historical. Like it's
Yeah.
been for a while.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's been here forever. It's only open one night a week. The owner, Mr. DeMongo, still owns it. He shows up, and like legit, it'll just be a party in the street on Friday, and that's it. And then like Ryan Gosling, whenever he's in town, swears by like that's one of the first places he'll go. So it's like one of those places.
Is that fireworks?
Could be.
No.
But it could be gunshots.
It's too early for it to be done.
It's too good.
Yeah.
It's
Sounds
probably
more like a
somebody like
firework.
hammering something.
Yeah, it could be that too, because there's a lot of construction going on around.
Oh,
So it could be a
okay.
no-go.
Okay. Okay. And the thing though, why I said like, I want to stop talking to you, because yeah, I run into cool people, but I thought, oh, I'm really running chatting with black folks. And one thing when I came across the bridge, because I'm staying over in Windsor, and I came over on the little bus that comes between,
Yeah,
and and I thought, oh wow, now this is a black city.
Yeah.
There.
But then most of the people, even that I've seen in I've gone by some of the little parties that are going on. Oh, so I'm like, well, where are the black folks partying, and how much is this festival also engaging black communities?
Well, that's why I still call it the Tech Fest, because when it was free, black people would be all up and through there. Like,
Right.
It was like, you gotta keep in mind, Detroit is the birthplace of techno.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own subset of techno called ghetto tech. Like, I grew up like going to parties in ghetto tech when we playing, and like we have our own dances that go to it. And so in that shift and that changeover, right, and it was subtle, but it was pronounced, because it was like it went from $0 to maybe like $30, right? Which was still acceptable for some, but for somebody who may not have that as a disposable income,
Right.
it's like great now. And then it went from 30 to 60, and now it's like a $300 weekend. So now if you don't have that means, you're not gonna go. Like, why would I go to this festival, right?
And you can see it from the outside. So if you just walk around like near Hart Plaza, you can always see the festival.
Yeah.
Somewhere. And it's always parties happening. So like in the belt, the alleyway, like today there's a party called Jerk and Jollof.
Oh yeah.
So that's why all black people will be here
They'll
today.
definitely be there.
Jerk and Jollof. It's called the
Jerk
Belt.
and Jollof.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or you can look up the skit. Yeah.
I'm a yardie. Jerk.
Yeah. So
No,
they have
it's
food.
gonna be-
Jollof, Nigerian.
Yeah.
It's gonna be us.
It's a great party.
Okay.
It's a good
And that's
time.
happening today, this
Yeah,
afternoon.
It's probably happening right now. It's usually an all-day party.
Oh,
It
cool.
happens if you look up like the skit or the belt, same thing. But it's an alleyway that they made into like a bar avenue. So
Yeah, a bunch of
Nice.
bars, a couple
Yeah.
galleries.
Jerk and Jollof. I looked that up because I was gonna go to this thing called at Spotlight. They said I should go.
Spotlight's
yeah,
a good
Spotlight
vibe.
is
Spotlight a good vibe too.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been yet, but every single night I feel like somebody's saying like, "Yo, you going to Spotlight?" So,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about like black people that I know who went to high school in the city. They're,
Okay.
like, going
So
there.
And
my-
that's where you hear ghetto tech. So Spotlight
Okay.
is usually techno music, but it's usually ghetto tech, R&B. Like that's the vibe. of
I'm a
Spotlight.
soulful house head kinda.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect space.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'll try to hit both. I'll go a little bit of some, a little bit of the other.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. I'm at an age now. People are telling me about parties after 10 o'clock, and I'm like, nah.
Nah, I feel you.
I do day parties. I
That's good,
can't
bro.
recover good, man. I mean, if it was, and I have to go back to trying to work and have a clear head. If I had a week off or something,
Yeah.
no worries. It'd be like being on vacation. We're a party till whatever time in the morning. I know I can sleep through and recover, but I can't. But great. Yeah, because I was trying to get a sense too of how black folks and white folks in the city mingle.
It's still tense. It's not fully there. At least observation. Let me say that.
Right.
You got to bear in mind the city has had 2 race riots on record, right? You got the 40s and you got the 60s. And in the 60s, tanks went down the street and white folks went to the suburbs. And so that was tense. And then it was a black city, like truly through and through, until about the 90s, right? But because of that, it also got hit by the crack epidemic, by like every other major black city.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of disenfranchisement because white people didn't come into the city. It was a place where you would go to buy drugs, right?
Right.
What y'all going there for? And so the money, the tax base, people who may have been middle management or upper management at the factories, then went to the suburbs, and the suburbs got built up.
Right.
And if you were black and you end up getting a job and you start to make money, now you're worried about where your kids are going to go to school. So now you go to the suburbs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like my family stuck around, but we stayed in like a pretty middle class, upper middle class neighborhood on the west side. And even for me, like my dad was like, "Yo, you're not going to this school. I'm gonna drive you to this school." And then when I got into school downtown, I took the bus. So like it was a very designed situation of like, oh, how are we going to disenfranchise X people, right?
Right.
Even if it wasn't overtly stated.
And it still happens, even in this neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
that is who is buying this, and this was a predominantly black area for
Right.
years, but
Right.
now like that's who is buying. It's mostly white folks are buying
Yeah.
and renovating these areas. So it's interesting. Even within the last like 15 years, like 10 years, I've seen a lot of people kind of move out. Like my friends have been priced out of like places they were renting, but then they were bought by a lot of developers. And then even the downtown area, like Midtown, as a kid, I never really went downtown because there was nothing downtown at all.
Yeah.
So probably within the last maybe 10 years, it
But
has
even, like,
started to have more things.
The rebrand to be called Midtown, 'cause that's Cass Corridor.
Exactly, it's Cass Corridor,
So
right?
Cass Corridor was like, it was a black jazz community. and it was where like if you were a black jazz
Sugar Hill.
musician, Sugar Hill, right? And so then that became Midtown once Wayne State's been down there for a while.
Right.
But the minute they was like, oh, we're gonna redevelop this, it was the rebrand. They got called Midtown, right? Because there's New Center area has always been like where Motown and everything is at, right? That's the North End, technically. That's where my father's from. And so North End and Highland Park is behind that. My mother's from Highland Park, right? And so then you got Midtown or Cass Corridor, and Cass Corridor was hit the hardest by the crack epidemic. That was where like when people were like, oh, if you're a junkie, you're going to Cass Corridor.
Right.
And my high school was literally Cass. It was named after Lewis Cass, who the Cass Corridor is named after as well. So like that is that area. But then you had DSA where Leo went to high school. And that's now right? And so it is still like a weird kind of like I hold no malice because I don't think many of the people who are in my age group or either even a little bit older than me really were an accomplice to many of the things. I think they were passive recipients of the benefits, right? Like if their parents moved, and they grew up in the suburbs, then they could come back in the city and buy something, right? My parents never left. My mother just moved to the suburbs. She moved to Harper Woods. My father moved to Southfield this past year. But like, we were in the city. My mom was in the city until last year. Like, she still works in the city. She like shows up, and not just like work at the factory. Like, she shows up for people who work disenfranchised. So like, you know, it is still very much like, I'm not gonna be upset at you. Because I'm glad that you're finally just coming back in the city and spending money in the city and wanting to be a part of the city. However, don't ignore the people who have been here and never left. Right? And that's why even when you came up to me, I was like, I make it clear like I'm from here, but I haven't been here in a while.
Right.
Because I think it's an important thing to distinguish. It's like I'm of these streets and of this soil, but I can talk certain ways about certain things, and there's certain things I know that I can't because I decided like, oh, I gotta leave to go do this.
Right.
And now even as I come back, I'm like, oh shit, should I? But I know if I'd have stayed, I wouldn't have gained the skill set that I now have to be here to decide to.
Where did you end up going?
Everywhere.
Where are you now?
I went to Atlanta for college and then Chicago for 2 years, and then I've lived in LA at this point for going on 13 years, and now I'm strongly considering coming back because that's another issue with LA right now. It's like, good luck trying to be affording anything here. Unless you're a millionaire.
Getting priced out so bad. But it's like that here. Like my rent, because I lived in LA too for a while. And when I came back here, my rent was right down the street, under $1,000.
Wow.
Now it's like $2,000. But I just bought in another like historically black neighborhood. That's a part of what's called the Black Bottom because they built the freeway.
Yeah.
375 to destroy the black community. So I live,
like they do everywhere.
Yeah. But that's why I bought in this area too. I knew I wanted to buy in Detroit. I could have gone to like Southfield or gone to the suburbs, but I would rather be a part of it. And I bought it from somebody who was a developer who did not live here. So that feels good too to say I'm reclaiming some of this space.
Wow, it's so funny that this story is repeated everywhere because even the places where black people still hold on, everything you're describing are similar dynamics that are playing out in terms of being priced out, in gentrification, more people showing up in hoods that they before were afraid of and scared of, and then the prices go up, and you know
they were scared to play, right?
Period.
Nobody was fucking with them in these neighborhoods. Like there's an unspoken rule that if a white person in your neighborhood is like, don't fuck with the cops, don't fuck with them.
Right.
So even if you're doing illegal activities, you're creating more stress for yourself. Nobody was fucking with white people like that. Nobody was saying like, oh, you can't be here. In fact, like growing up, my neighbors are Scottish. Like my parents used to fight cats and dogs, and like they would be right there, and they'd be like, yeah, you need something. Like, so for no reason, like white people were in these communities. Even like when I was in middle school, like white families were like, there was another white family down the block from me. White family like that grew up on the same block as my homeboy who I went to school with. Their kid went to school with us. I mean, there were Asian kids in my school. The Latino families have always been in Southwest Detroit, I feel, but you know, it was a nonsense fear built around like, well, what, and it was really built out of guilt for the fact that it had to get this far. Because black people were saying this shit to you. Black people were saying to you like, yo, this is a problem. Like, do you know why the '67 rebellion started? The '67 rebellion started because there were two soldiers who came back from Vietnam, and they were at a bar called a Blind Pig, which is basically a speakeasy.
Right.
And the cops came in and they were like, "Gotta shut this shit down." And they were like, "We understand." However, 2 of our friends just came back from Vietnam, and the cops beat everybody's heads in. And that's what started the '67 rebellion. It was literally black people celebrating that their friends came back from war. And then they couldn't get it under, like, it took a black Detroit Tigers player to get the rebellion under control.
Wow.
Like, that is what, like, this is not, it's the crazy shit when you think about it. It's like, it's never been a thing of like, oh, we're upset at you for the sake of being white. We're upset at you for the systems that you put in place that make it hard for us to live a life of decency. You know what I mean? Like, even like Black Bottom, my grandfather on my father's side, who I never met, had a grocery store there. And the minute they built Black Bottom and ran him out, he ran back to Alabama. My father didn't grow up with a father because they grew up in poverty. Because they built a fucking freeway over his father's grocery store and ran him out of town. Like, that's the shit that creates a rebellion. That's the thing that creates, you know, a sense of like, oh, us versus them. You know what I mean? So there was never a disdain for white people. It was more of a disdain for a system that prevented black people from having decency. Like, now, I'm not even talking about flourishing. I'm talking about just fucking human decency.
Listen, you're articulating really well a response to the critique of DEI.
Yeah, for real.
That is a great framing. I'm probably gonna, because I do equity work, so I'm probably gonna watch this back and borrow it and say, okay, let's argue back about what you all fear and worry that this thing is, and that you want to destroy and quash. Because what you're really saying is exactly, you know, to your point, you want to maintain it the way it is so that we are constantly under stress.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're talking now not even about glass ceilings, we're talking about glass cliff. Because even in Toronto right now and in Canada, there is this, okay, George Floyd, even, it's sort of vibrating also across the globe and in anywhere where there's white dominant cultures. And so there's all this conversation about, okay, well, what do we do? And so, all right, suddenly all these black people are getting all these senior positions. But some of my work is I work with some of them, and they're on just like here, like I read the literature here too, you know, you're suddenly in these positions replacing supposedly, you know, this whole argument, even I'm sure here as well, where whenever we start talking about equity and giving black people chances because they're skilled. It's not like they've never been skilled. They're skilled to do shit. Yeah. Suddenly it's like, oh, well, we have got to make sure we get the right person for the job and we have the maintenance standards. Yeah. And here we have these amazing black folks finally getting a chance to take over, but then getting in there and saying, so these supposedly best for the job white boys mess shit up. We're never I sit in rooms saying to people when they're saying, oh, well, standards are said, and I would just turn and say, how did you get your job? All I have to ask is, how did you get your position? And how did your daddy get? And how did you da-da-da-da-da, right? So there's always been this history of nepotism internally in terms of how white people have moved around. And, you know, I know there's an intersectionality, there are poor people, yeah, all of that. Of but the system has been set up in such a way that black people automatically just would not even be considered. No matter how, you watch, what's her name, Congresswoman Crockett's speech the other day about what it means. And I thought that so reverberates because that's the truth for lots of black folks who know you're amazing. But what I'm seeing now, though, is that, okay, so they put them in the position, but then they get there, it's hell what they've inherited. And then everybody's angry at them, including white people.
Have expectations for you to overperform, to be able to meet these higher expectations, and the goalpost keeps on shifting and changing because for some reason, your accolades and your academics and your experience is not enough.
Nope. And then they want you to fix the mess they created. So that's why I'm saying to people, be careful about taking these jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the great irony too is like even that statement, right? That in order to be received in your position, you have to be exceptional, right? That's bullshit in and of itself because no white person has to be exceptional, right? Like think about that. It's like true equality is not exceptionalism. True equality is mediocrity. It's the acceptance that I can be bad at my job today because I had a bad day. Or my father is ill. Or my kid just like went off on me in the car when I was dropping off at school. I'm allowed to be bad today because I'm a human.
And just to add to that, right, because it's such a great theme, so the same way the white man couldn't fix this shit that you set up, I can sit in a room and say, I also don't know how to fix this shit. So you hired me thinking, oh, you guys all complaining, so okay, and then throw you in there, and it's like, you understand that this stuff that we have in front of us has tentacles deep rooted.
And I'll go a step further, right? I'm supposed to fix this, but I'm of the community that you disenfranchised, the schools where you took the books out of, the places where you took the book vouchers away, the places where I had to basically hustle and strive to get anything to go to college. I went to an HBCU, went to the colleges that you told me were lesser than because, oh, those are black colleges, and then went there and found some sort of alacrity and some sort of hustle to say, like, well, I'm gonna go from here to the highest of echelons. Had to find the financial means to do those things, right? Like, I'm of the soil that you disenfranchised, and yet somehow I flourish. Now you put me in the position to say, like, now fix the soil. No, motherfucker, you planted me there. You fix the soil, and I'll bring other flowers to grow in it. Like, don't make it to where I have to fix your problem because you're too ashamed. Again, that shame thing of like, you're so ashamed to admit that you created a problem that now it's either gonna be to fix or rebel. And if I rebel, you paint me as a savage or as the villain of this narrative, when in fact my rebellion is just, it's an exhaustion. Like, why am I so tired and anxious and stressed? And then I take this out on my family, right? On my husband, on my wife, on my kids, on my partner, or whomever. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, my life family is falling apart because I'm carrying the anxiety of a societal ill. That's the problem.
And then I'm depressed, and I'm stressed,
and I have sickness,
and I become an addict, or I embezzle because I can't. Like, you're so framing exactly what sets us up to fail in ways that then we carry weight too, right? Because we are the ones reflecting, celebrated, but you're in there not even able to come out and say, man, this is like fucked up. Because you're the pride. I'm sure even you're the pride.
You have to be the exceptional Negro.
Yeah.
Right? And then even in being exceptional, it's like, one, that's a role that no one can step into being because you have to be so many things for so many people. But even your exceptionalism, it's like, if we continue to bolster a talented 10th, then we're forgetting about the other disenfranchised 90. Like, there's 90%. Cool, talented 10th, wonderful. What about that 90th percentile, those other people, right? Like, they need love
Detroit
too.
is like that, though. Like, if you go outside, well, I can't even say that because there are pockets of, like, affluence all across Detroit.
Absolutely.
But you don't really, and it's black folks. So, like, you might not see a lot of black people here who are experiencing that, but what I love is that so many black folks outside of, like, the downtown area have still found joy, still found community, still found love for each other, like, still are building community gardens, still are taking care of their neighbors, still living and experiencing that. And I think that's also the lie that they tell us, is that because we aren't a part of this talented 10, that we aren't allowed to be happy or have joy and be able to be a community and care about each other and still feel happiness and be okay at the end of the day. When everything is said and done, I can still say I love my life, even though I never got to this space of affluence that people expected me to get to, or said that this is the only worthy way to be.
And then the other part of that too is like the positive of it. I don't know if you saw this. Like, there was I forget who released the study, but in the past 3 to 5 years, like something like $5 billion of worth has been built in the city off like retaining black ownership of homes. So like that is
Have you been to Avenue of Fashion?
No.
So if you go, I don't know if you're exploring the city outside of this area, but if you go down Livernois,
we've gone to Cuzzo's before. We've been here.
So that whole entire strip is black-owned businesses. If you go down those 2 miles, but that's been around forever, and it's. And I used to live. I grew up over there, so like I've seen it when it was like nothing happening over there, and then I will never forget seeing white people walking their dogs. It's like, this is different. A different kind of area, but it's still very much a black-owned neighborhood and area. So that's like Aretha Franklin lived around the corner from it. Like, that's the kind of area I think when I think about Black Detroit, that's what I think about. I think about outside
and
of
those homes are gorgeous.
Yeah, beautiful spaces. Even down like some parts of Grand River. If you go to like near Rosedale Park, there are like a lot of coffee shops and restaurants and homes that are all mostly by black folks in the area too. But
and that was
the part we don't always see.
That was something too that I didn't really understand until I left Detroit. Was like, I grew up in a neighborhood, even growing up in Rosedale, I grew up in a neighborhood where like you had a black plumber, a black doctor, a black reverend, a black lawyer, a black person who worked at the factory, like all within the community. So it wasn't like you had to go far to find people. It was like, just go across the street and go talk to Doug's dad.
Mm.
So like those were people. So when I left, and like even Atlanta is very much this way too in some pockets.
Yeah.
But like when I left and went to Chicago, and I was like, what you mean black people don't have this? Because I saw it growing up.
Right.
And that's what Oakland used to. Oakland, California used to be too. I got an uncle that's up there, but like I got friends from Oakland in the Bay Area, and they got pushed out to Alameda. They got sold to cribs, and you know, San Francisco. San Francisco used to be a black city. San Francisco was the city where like O.J. Simpson's from fucking San Francisco, right? Not the best example, but like literally it was a city where like, oh, this is where black people are from. They worked on the docks and they owned homes, and then when they realized that was quality property, the city fucking eminent domain.
Yeah, I saw a doc just recently on exactly what you're just describing. Yeah, how they got pushed out, very much like what you're describing. So it's funny because I'm being from Jamaica, and I go and I kind of try to go quite regularly, and I went recently, no, not last year, or maybe the year before, and they're just like here, they're doing this sort of reviving of certain communities in the inner city of Kingston, which is the main capital city. And I was there with my siblings, went for an aunt's funeral, and we were born there, grew up. You know, I grew up there for a bit. I went to the rural area to live with my dad's family, grandmother raised, as I say, and then my siblings came to Canada, went to Canada. So you know, we left just before when it was still all vibrant, like you're describing. But then, you know, lots of stuff happened, more class than race, even though when you look at the intersections, a lot of the people with money tend to be lighter, whiter, and are legacy children of plantation ownership, right? So even a lot of the businesses, or there were particular populations, Chinese, Indians, you know, Middle Eastern a lot in the Caribbean, who basically, you know, kind of were in between, right, and benefited from keep the blacks down. You know, we'll keep you sweet, so you won't also turn against us, and you also help us keep them down, right? So anyway, some of those areas began to become really desperate. But when you said that earlier about if you are coming back to the neighborhoods to revive them, which they are doing right now, so they have a whole revival. Kingston Creative's doing a whole revival project. So there's some amazing old neighborhoods where they, you know, the reviving, so cafes are springing up, you know, coffee shops, and then it's a mural district. So it's sort of bookended by, there's a museum of art, and then on the end it's an institute of art, right? So you walk between it, it's amazing. So we were just like, wow, this is amazing, right? But my question to the folks organized, I said, well, like you said earlier, but the people who were still here holding it down when it was a rough, tough, that nobody, because I remember going a number of years ago, and my brother I have some brothers there, and he was driving me through Kingston, and I think we were coming to a stoplight, and I think I was rolling down the window, saying, oh, look, and he says, oh, don't roll down the window like you can. And then he's like, basically, you didn't stop at stoplights, you just keep driving. Same here, right? You don't. So he would just slow down and just keep going. I said, but the light's red. He says, you can't stop, man. You can't stop, right? So all that was happening back then. So I said to them, but people live here. People were running around here. And I remember someone's going down there back in the people would say, oh, you know, don't stay too long, walk real quick, don't take out your phone, like, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. But now they're doing this thing, and it's like, oh, everybody, let's go down. All the people from uptown are coming down, and all this stuff like here. And so my question is, but are the folks who held it down being engaged, acknowledged, benefiting from this that's happening? And that's always a big question for me, is that all this stuff happens, they revive neighborhoods, and do the people who were here struggling through, so it still stayed, and so it's also even still cool and hip and fun that you're building on, are you make sure they benefit?
I think here it's kind of happening. I see it with a lot of black-owned businesses where they have like a lot of like match programs, and folks are getting like money invested into them to build up spaces. Like even not too far away from here, there's like no bookstores that was in this area, but somebody recently got funding to open up a bookstore in this area.
Excellent.
So it's a lot of, that's one thing I can say is that contributing to black businesses and black entrepreneurship is happening here in the city. And there are hubs like Build Detroit just opened, which is a hub for black owned businesses and nonprofits, strategic community partnerships in the Fitzgerald area. They support black-owned businesses. They just opened a credit union, a black-owned credit union in the area, and there's like a neighborhood revitalization that's happening that is so rooted in community-based, and the people who grew up there, who live there, that's happening here. And I think that's like the way that we have to continue to take back from it, because it's not, like I said, they're a developer. People have their eye on places that are like full of potential, and they see development, and so what's happening is people were buying places probably the last like 10 years, and they're fixing them up. It's like shooting up the prices, but that's one way I think I see.
That's great.
In some ways, for people to still be able to hold on to something is like at least having money for a black-owned business. I even have like cousins who have gotten like match grants, you know,
Right.
and catering businesses and stuff like that too. So not even just brick and mortar business.
Yeah, no, and it's great. And just to say, before some of my yardies who watch this come for me, they're actually some of that. They did sort of say that they're engaging young people, they're engaging folks. You know, it's just that sometimes what happens, which happens everywhere with gentrification, is that, you know, the people inside get it priced out or get pushed out with the developments that come in, and then a lot of people come in from outside. And I remember, I think it was in Brooklyn or Harlem, they were having the conversation that it's not even necessarily about white folks, because even there are also up and coming black folks who also come from wherever and then just kind of push the existing black folks out in disrespectful ways, right? And it's like, oh yeah, you know, like you're some of the talented 10. A lot of the talented 10 come in because they can afford the condos now that are going up. And then the local community, they're like upset about it. And like, why are they having their parties on the street? And it's like, what are you talking about? This is who we are. But then you realize, oh, not kinfolk necessarily.
Kinfolk and kinfolk.
You know? So anyway, this is a pleasure. I'm
Where do you
glad
do you just do it for your own archive, or do you?
I have a YouTube channel actually, Visria. I'll give you, and then it's VIS.
I gotta unlock my phone now.
Yeah, there's, and then I also have an Instagram too, where I sometimes post little clips.
That's the Instagram page. Is VIS?
So no, YouTube is VIS, and then space, no underscore, just space, RIA, and it should come up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think the last thing I did a walk in Toronto yesterday in a neighborhood I love, and one of the things in Toronto that is great is that there's a lot of, well, we celebrate diversity, so you just meet people in the same neighborhood from all kinds of, yesterday it was like Portuguese, Korean, South African, Trinidadian, you know, Brazilian, you know, Singaporean, just everybody doing their thing, opening their little businesses, doing their thing. So that's happening. But again, in the city, not always everywhere where everybody benefits. And then my Instagram is CLO. Yeah, GLO. All one word, CLO. And I'm usually only one, Douglas Stewart.
Love that, man.
You said CLOVLO?
No, G. CLO. CLO. GLO. Yeah, and you should say the first one is last post was a woman with her earring.
Her earrings.
Yeah. Because it's Black Foodie Week in Toronto this week, or Black Restaurant Week, and it says "Eat Black intentionally" is their slogan. So we try to support all the black restaurants, and there's a ton of that. There's just an explosion of, because I don't know about here, but in Toronto, you probably know Toronto is a very international city.
Mm-hmm.
So like pretty much black communities are like people like, you know, Caribbean, Jamaican being the largest, and then a lot of Afro-continental folks, Nigerians,
I was
Ghanaians,
gonna
everything.
say, like, you know, so the area I was mentioning, like on the west side down 6 Mile, it's like 3 or 4 different Jamaican restaurants down there.
Oh yeah. There's actually a pretty good Jamaican population.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
It is, especially that area.
I've been to a couple house parties in the city where I'm like, your family Jamaican? They're like, yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm like, how long we been here? Like, we've been here for like 3 hours. Oh, the party just starting. That wasn't the party?
It's one place I go to, the portion size is so big. I got a large Sorrel. It was literally like a big tub. Like, it's big. I was like, I'm not gonna drink this in one sitting. This is for 3 days.
And you have a carnival here? Because Trinidadians,
Don't have a carnival, but you know,
Bajans,
yeah.
Grenadians, they're more, because Jamaica's reggae kind of is our thing, dancehall, but they do the soca and calypso. Oh, you all just go to Caravana, right?
I've been to Caravana about 2-3 times.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I love it, man.
Yeah. Have you ever been?
No,
Never
never
Caravana?
been. No.
Oh, it's fire, man.
You have
No,
to go.
I always end up like missing any type of carnival. Like I was in Colombia the week before, the week after their carnival I was there. Nope, I have not been. My friends, I think I feel like we're getting a little bit too older to go, so I'm trying to get them one last
go.
chance
There's a family side of Caravana
to go.
too.
Oh, nice.
There's
Okay.
there's the side that's
I've only
like,
ever seen
yeah.
the not family.
No,
friendly
there's the
part.
side that's like, whoa, we wildin', And then there's the part that's like, okay, there's like families here.
Okay.
You can still go see the parade and all that.
Yeah, you get you go the different parts of the parade route.
Yeah.
You find the families with their coolers and their
Yeah.
chairs and their
Okay.
tents and the kids, and they're
Yeah.
close your eyes when the
was like,
the
that's
bodies
not
come down the
what I
road.
Oh no, yeah, I've been to Caribana and like somehow started walking the parade, and I was like, how did I get here? Like me and my homeboys, like we just were like, oh yeah, let's go. And then, I had been once or twice, and they're like, oh yeah, let's go, we're gonna go. And then there was an opening, and we just started actually walking in the parade. And we
Yeah,
started walking
yeah,
in the floats,
yeah.
And I was like, yo, this is incredible.
It's. I mean, I've played mass too. With my friends, and because the one thing to in our community, a lot of we're all mixed up at the end of the day. People are intermarried. Our friendship networks, we all even sometimes start to pick up sound. We sound like each other.
Too flat.
Can't always tell where you from, kind of thing.
Where
But
your mom and them from?
if you're around, you pick it up, right? But what Trinidad though? I went to Trinidad for theirs. Man,
I heard
I'm
Trinity's
saying
fun.
go if you can.
Yeah, my pops is married to a Bahamian woman. And
Yeah?
He goes to Bahamas every couple years for their
That's
birthday.
good too. Listen, any carnival, just go. I mean, everybody complains about whatever, but the Trinis are really, it's their thing, so nothing else can quite match it.
Trinis are a little. I love Trini people, but they're a little arrogant because they got that oil money. It's like, we
Oh, you know about that?
Yeah, I got some Trini folks, like not family, but like Trini friends from
Yeah.
college, and it's like they hit me to the game. They're like, oh yeah, because we just got a bunch of money like from the oils, and that allowed us to go send our families to college, to go to engineers. Like, oh, you see, I got some money. Y'all got a little bit. Oh, okay. I see what this is.
And they try to, and that's the little edge with Jamaicans, because Jamaicans, are just like large,
Yeah.
in terms of the music went large, the Usain Bolt go, like we're just large, and we also our personalities are
I got
large.
some Jamaican friends too. Y'all, y'all are fun.
Yeah, and we're loud and we're arrogant. We always joke that we're Nigerians because if you ever met Nigerians too, and the joke is Nigerians are the Jamaicans of Africa and Jamaicans are the
Well,
Nigerians
it's
of
like you hear Nigerians, Jamaicans, and Irish people, and it's like put them in a room together and have them talk, and in about an hour in, they're all it's gonna be the same conversation. It's gonna be loud, and they all gonna have the same accent. About an hour and 3 beers in.
And we're the joke. I remember once I was somewhere and we were talking about. Oh yeah, I was talking actually to somebody from Trinidad, and she was saying, oh yeah, but Trinis, we believe we're the best in the Caribbean, and I said, well, you see, that's the difference with you and Jamaicans, because we believe we're the best in the world. It was like a little moment of drop the mic. It's like, and at the end of it, it's all, it's all
all
silly.
love,
It's all, a game and play. Because at the end of the day, we're all mixed up. And I love when I meet the people because I have friends who are, one parent is Trini, one parent is Jamaican.
Yeah.
So they're just like, I have no dog in this fight, man, because I'm both. It's all good. And now the big war is who has the best KFC. Can you imagine the big war is who has the best KFC? Because you've heard this, right? In the
That's how
Caribbean.
South Africa is right now too.
Is that? What
South
are they
Africa
doing?
is like real big on KFC. I don't know why KFC is so big over there.
It's just practically
yeah.
better than here.
I got a couple of South African friends that we went recently, and they like that's the big thing there. It's like KFC is like
Can see that.
I don't know.
Because supposedly they use, I always laugh and go, the only thing about Jamaican KFC that I appreciate is they do have barbecue chicken, which you don't usually get at KFC's. And even here in the States at one point, I used to love to come here because they used to have like honey.
Yeah.
Honey
remember that
cook. You
era.
remember that?
Uh-huh.
That
And
was
that
so
used to be
random.
so good. I
That
used to
was
love
like
it.
A random memory you just
Right?
unlocked there, yeah.
You remember that?
The little
I'm not
like
making that up, right?
No, the honey barbecue.
It was
chicken.
good.
Yeah.
And then they stopped it, right?
They have all the good stuff at KFC, I think. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because it's not real. That's why they call it KFC. It's not real
It's
chicken.
not real chicken.
Yeah, and that's why I always laugh, because then the regular KFC is what they're fighting about. They're like, no, and I'm like, and every time I go and I eat that, I'm going, it tastes the same to me. I think it's more like a head thing about, I'm in the Caribbean, the warm and the vibe, and I think everything, and I'm like, no, it still tastes salty, and I don't know that he would want the.
If I'm gonna go to the Caribbean in any way, and I'm going to get something, I'm like, put whatever in the jerk sauce. I don't want anything that I could possibly get in another. I want the thing that I can't get elsewhere.
I hear you. Well, that's a nice note to end it. Well, thank you. What's your names?
Naeem.
Naeem.
Yeah.
What's the heritage of Naeem? How'd you get that?
It's my choice, but it's Arabic. It means joy.
So you chose it later on. Oh, or I thought your parents said, well, wait till he gets so aged to tell us what he wants to tell us his name.
So here's my tale that I tell people, right? My parents chose one name and I'm one of those people that like looks up meanings of names, and I feel like I kind of like reached a point where I fulfilled part of what that name was like chosen.
Right.
And then I reached a point where I was having a religious journey, and I was like, oh, okay, like I'm finding myself in this, and in finding myself in that, that's where I was like, this is what I want to be called moving forward. And now it's my responsibility as I carry into the world. Like the thing I say to people now is like the name in and of itself means joy, contentment, right, bliss. And so if I enter a room and they're like, oh, Naeem has come in, then it is my responsibility to give you joy. Like I am the joy that has entered the room. And if I leave the room, it's my choice to either take that with me or give it to you. So that's my goal in terms of how I operate in the world. I don't always succeed, but that's what I try to do.
Nice, Fred. Now you got to top that to end this off.
Well, my name is Tanji.
What's that? How do you spell it?
Tonjie.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what's
it is a birth name. My sister named me when she was 2 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's actually a Nigerian name. It's a last name.
Wow.
So I met folks who've told me that my name is Nigerian, and then my sister did an ancestry, and it is we're Nigerian mostly. So
Brilliant.
she gave me a name that was for me, and I've met people who said my name means like God's favor or God's light.
Nice, nice. Beautiful ending. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Sweet.
I'll be up on the phone.
I'm going to try. How about that? Let me see. Let's make sure.